chick had no bread. Do you know what she said?
Let them eat cake.
Who took the bomb?
We're getting screwed, man. Every time we turn around, we're getting screwed. Oh, the revolution's going to be through podcasting for sure. That's the only way we talk. It's the little guys that take the brunt of everything. It's got to stop. Peasants, man. We're just peasants. Every one of us. You watch those old movies, you see the peasants in the background with the kings and queens walking around. We're those people. We're those people. Good morning, peasants. Welcome to another episode of the Peasant's Perspective. Shantini, good morning from Fraser. Good morning from the great state of Idaho. Carlito and Tiffany, good morning, everyone. Cold chemtrail day here in Texas. I hope you make it. Okay, so the chemtrails, what are they? They putting like aluminum dioxide on the soil, making it unplantable, or is it making it rain where it doesn't otherwise rain? What's it doing?
Chemtrails. That's what we're opening with?
Yeah, chemtrails. That's what opening with. All right. I know why you guys actually showed up here first thing bright and early in the morning. You guys showed up for the simultaneous slip. So let's do that now. All you need is a cup or a mug, a glass, a tankard, a chalice, a stein, a canteen, jug or flask, a vessel of any kind. Fill it with your favorite liquid. I like coffee. And join me now for the unparalleled pleasure of the dopamine hit of the day, the thing that makes everything better, the simultaneous sip. And it starts right now. All right, we're coming back to that. Right. Always the sound, always the one thing I forget right before we do it. Okay, back to the simultaneous sip. And it starts now.
We must stop the terror. Call upon all nations to do everything they can to stop these terrorist killers. Thank you. Now watch this drive.
Love it. Every single time I love it. If there's one thing I liked about George Bush, it was stuff like that. I always mess up the quote, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on one of us. I mess it up all the time. I never messed it up before he said it, and then since then I've had a struggle to ever get it right. All right, let's see. Carlitos, good morning from Rumble. John Atakis, morning. Pony Boy, good morning. Carlitos, they spray barium and aluminum ball. Interesting. There's always a cult connection there, isn't there? Okay, so we had a really busy weekend. Lots of amazing stuff happened. And Trump went on a pretty good tirade last night. We're going to kind of follow some of his Truth Social posts. So he said this last night. The courts treat Republicans and me so unfairly, always seeming to protect those who should not be protected. They are highly politicized. Cases don't matter, and the judge does. As an example, how this absolutely terrible Federal Reserve Chairman, Jerome Too Late Powell, not even allowed to be investigated for the horrible job he does. How is he allowed to be billions with a B, of dollars over budget and years behind schedule on a simple renovation of the small Federal Reserve complex in Washington, D.C., where he created an absolute disaster, a money pit, an embarrassment to our country for the whole world to see. It is a little project that has been under construction for many years. The contractor on the job, along with Powell, should be heavily investigated in that it is impossible for a professional to have such enormous cost overruns. It is the highest price building per square foot of any project ever built, with no end in sight and not even to be open for many years to come. I strongly criticize Jerome Too Late for his horrible performance throughout his tenure, which is either gross incompetence, total dishonesty, or both. And in return for this well-justified criticism, get viciously and wrongfully blamed as usual. Wacky, nasty, crooked, and totally out of control judge named Judge James Boasberg, a man who suffers from the highest level of Trump derangement syndrome, TDS, has been after my people and me for years. The D.C. Circuit eagerly supported the arrest and persecution of innocent Republicans for no crimes at all, but is now preventing even basic investigation into the gross financial mismanagement of the Federal Reserve. In case after case, Boasberg has displayed open, flagrant, and extreme partisan bias and contempt against Republicans and the Trump administration to preserve the integrity of the judiciary. He should be removed from all cases pertaining to us and suffer serious disciplinary action, as should numerous other corrupt judges that, unfortunately, our country has had to endure. What Boasberg has done on the Too Late Powell case and many others has little to do with the law and everything to do with politics. He is exactly what judges should not be. Boasberg would do better to focus on justice and fairness on his own and the Democrats' political, not his own and the Democrats' political agenda, which has become legendary. Much like prosecutor deranged Jack Smith and many others, Boasberg is a disgrace, as was his predecessor to our legal process, and our highly politicized court system, which was just witnessed firsthand. I blacked out. Firsthand by the unfortunate and unwarranted tariff decision recently handed down by the United States Supreme Court, which was a gift to the countries and companies who have been ripping off the United States for decades at levels never seen before. So what is this having to do with? On Friday, Judge Jeanine Pirro put out a press release, she had a press release, or excuse me, a press gaggle. And this is what she said. It was about a 14-minute long press conference. Oh, darn it. Hold on.
Well, I think it's interesting that we're talking about Boasberg. Actually, I think it's really interesting that Donald Trump put out a text or a tweet that was so long. I think a lot of people would think, well, why is Donald Trump going on and on and on about this judge? I mean,
it gets longer.
Well, I'm sure it does, because people on our podcast and us, we know what's going on with Boasberg, but I don't know if the public generally knows.
No, but the public doesn't know jack shiz, it seems like, right? They're walking around like, Okay, so Jeanine Pirro did this 14 or 15-minute press conference, and she laid out in there how the grand jury has unfettered ability to investigate crime. She goes on, I can open a newspaper, read something, form a grand jury, and investigate to prove that you did do something enough to bring charges, or prove that you didn't and not bring charges. Like, I have to be able to investigate. So she does this press conference between Judge Boasberg has prevented subpoenas. He stepped in the way.
The Federal Reserve System. Now, the American public is fed up with public monies that seem to go into a black hole, especially in D.C., where no one is held accountable. One of the age-old tools that all prosecutors have to investigate any crime, including cost overruns, is a grand jury subpoena. Today, however, in Washington, an activist judge has taken that tool away from us by inserting himself and preventing the grand jury from even obtaining, let alone hearing, evidence. He has neutered the grand jury's ability to investigate crime. As a result, Jerome Powell today is now bathed in immunity, preventing my office from investigating the Federal Reserve. This is wrong, and it is without legal authority. In June of 2025, Jerome Powell testified before the Senate Banking Committee, making, quote, questionable statements that did not comport with publicly available documents. And it was regarding the atrocious cost overrun of more than $1 billion. I didn't say million, I said billion, in renovations to his headquarters. This is the man who says that he is the steward of our public funds. In November, the United States Attorney's Office began an inquiry. Prosecutors from my office gathered information for months before we served 2 grand jury subpoenas. On December 19th, we sent an email to the Federal Reserve to have a conversation, a meeting, or even a phone call to discuss our concerns. There was no response. On December 29th, we sent an email to have a conversation, a meeting, or even a phone call to discuss our concerns. Again, we were ignored. We, in fact, asked to meet the first week in January. We were ignored. It was at that point that 2 grand jury subpoenas were issued to the Federal Reserve, not even to Jerome Powell. Again, no response, no compliance, but instead a woe is me video by Mr. Powell falsely claiming that he was being threatened with criminal indictment. And claiming victim status, Powell proceeds to his political indeed and around the world to gin up support for himself, all the while refusing to produce simple documents. Now enter local District Court Judge James Boasberg, whose written decision on its face makes clear his antipathy toward President Trump and this administration. He quashes both subpoenas, thereby prohibiting us from reviewing any records and precluding us from submitting records to the grand jury. That grand jury, of course, comprised of ordinary people. Ladies and gentlemen, no one is above the law. But for the first time, a judge is ruling that a grand jury subpoena on its face in all regards can be ignored because a judge thinks the subject is beyond reproach. This is a decision that is untethered to the law. It creates chaos where any defendant who wishes to evade an investigation, guilty or not, can allege I'm a victim, I'm being targeted, and therefore you cannot investigate me. And if you find the right judge, he'll buy it. This is the antithesis of American justice. Exonerating anyone without any records, without an investigation or question is not how our criminal justice system works. This judge has put himself at the entrance door to the grand jury, slamming that door shut, irrespective of the legal process, and thus preventing the grand jury from doing the work that it does. So what is the law?
So what is the law? And she goes on to explain that the law basically allows the grand jury to investigate anything they want. That's the point, right? If nothing, and this is why grand jury proceedings are secret.
And it sounds like Boasberg is like, I'm just going to shut down anything I want.
Even in your trial, you don't get to hear what was presented to the grand jury because it might be a flop. It might lead to nowhere. It might prove your innocence, right? But if they rise to this level of probable cause, then they issue a warrant. The subpoena is the investigatory tool. So the fact that this judge did that is absolutely catastrophic to our legal system. Catastrophic. This is a constitutional crisis. Trump goes on to rail against the court system and the Supreme Court's here. So let's read this. We know when you're showing it. You showing it?
Yep.
Okay. The courts treat Republicans and me so unfairly, always seeming to protect those who should not be protected. Oh, I just read this, didn't I? I just read this one. Okay, go back. It was in a different format.
Okay.
Okay, so this one right here. The decision that mattered to me most was the tariffs. The courts knew where I stood, how badly I wanted this victory for our country, and instead decided to potentially give away trillions of dollars to countries and companies who have been taking advantage of the United States for decades. Our Supreme Court has made these countries very happy, but as the court pointed out, I have absolute zero right to charge tariffs. I have absolute right to charge tariffs in another form and have already started to do so. The hundreds of billions of dollars our adversaries want our country to pay back to others to pay back to others that have disrespected the USA until I came along should be marked down in the eyes of the public. Just another reason why the United States has been in such major decline. But Not anymore, because we have made America great again, and very soon it will be greater than ever before. I want to thank Justice Alito, Thomas, and Kavanaugh for their wisdom and courage pertaining to the tariff case, and for understanding, in addition to the law, that our unfriendly competitors should not be reimbursed and rewarded for the decades of damage that they have caused to the United States of America. I will fight hard to make sure that this does not happen. The Democrats on the court always stick together. No matter how strong the case is put before them, there is rarely even a minor waiver. But Republicans do not do this. They openly disrespect the presidents who nominate them to the highest position of the land, a justice of the United States Supreme Court, and go out of their way with bad and wrongful rulings and intentions to prove how honest and independent and legitimate they are. The Democrat justices just vote Democrat. They always stick together. Our country was unnecessarily ransacked, all caps, by the United States Supreme Court, which has become little more than a weaponized and unjust political organization. Did I say constitutional crisis? The sad thing is, this will only get worse. They wouldn't even call out the rigged presidential election of 2020, which, because they said that I, as president of the United States, did not have standing to challenge it. And now, with time, it has conclusively proven to be stolen. And look what happened to our wonderful nation by allowing a grossly incompetent man, Sleepy Joe Biden, to be our president. This completely inept and embarrassing court was not what the Supreme Court of the United States was set up for by our wonderful founders to be. They are hurting our country and will continue to do so. All I can do as president is call them out for their bad behavior. This statement about the United States Supreme Court will cause me nothing but problems in the future. But I feel it is my obligation to speak the truth, all caps. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Make America great again, President Donald J. Trump. Wow. When was the last time we had this big of a disagreement between the Supreme Court and the executive branch? Can you remember?
No.
There was a little bit of a disagreement during the New Deal legislation with Franklin Roosevelt, and he threatened to pack the court. And came up with a compromise with the court where they allowed a lot of these unconstitutional executive branch departments to go forward, taxing a whole bunch of stuff, right? Because he threatened to pack the court. But before that, the last time was 1861. It was at the breakout of the Civil War. Okay. And it primarily centered around Chief Justice Roger Taney. And Justice Roger Taney, when he was in the lower court, he was one of the ones that made the decision, the Dred Scott decision, right, which became a central theme of the 1960 presidential campaign. And Taney said this: the candid citizen must confess that if a policy of the government upon vital questions affecting the whole people is irrevocably fixed by decisions of the Supreme Court, the instant they are made in ordinary litigation between parties and personal actions, the people will have ceased to be their own rulers. Having that, to that extent, this is what Lincoln said, to that extent, practically resign their government into the hands of the eminent tribunal. So Lincoln recognized that if that decision could stand, you've essentially handed the country over to the Supreme Court, right? So then it goes on to talk about the writ of habeas corpus. Section 1, Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution says, the privilege of writ of habeas corpus shall not be suspended unless, in case of rebellion or invasion, the public safety may require it. The great writ's origin go back to the signing of the Magna Carta in England in 1250, and the writ compels the government to show cause to a judge for the arrest or detention of a person. After the start of the Civil War, President Lincoln ordered General Winfield Scott to suspend habeas corpus near railroad lines. I blacked out again. Near railroad lines that connected Philadelphia to Washington amid fears of a rebellion in Maryland would endanger Washington. Federal troops arrested a Maryland planter, John Merryman, on suspicion that he was involved in a conspiracy as part of an armed secessionist group. Merryman was detained in Fort McHenry without warrant. Merryman's attorney petitioned the U.S. Court for Maryland, which Taney oversaw for his client's release. So basically, habeas corpus is the idea. If you get arrested, you have like 72 hours to be presented before a magistrate and show cause for the arrest, right? You can't detain anybody for over 3 days without cause. But in times of invasion or rebellion, that gets waived. Okay. Because if a military officer sees you doing something wrong, he arrests you and detains you until they do something about it. Right. But they have to stop the imminent threat. So what happened was Taney issued a writ of habeas corpus on General George Cadwalader at Fort McCain, who's commander, to appear in the circuit courtroom along with Merryman and explain his reasons for detaining Merryman. Caldwalder, the general, didn't comply with the writ and sent a letter back to Taney on May 27th explaining that Lincoln had authorized military officers to suspend the writ when they felt that there were public safety concerns. Taney then tried to notify Caldwalder that he was in contempt of court, but soldiers at Fort McHenry refused the notice. The judge issued an oral opinion and later a written opinion. Quote, the clause of the Constitution which authorizes the suspension of the writ of habeas corpus in the 9th section of the first article. This article is devoted to the legislative department of the United States and is not the slightest reference to the executive department. Well, hold on. It says in the Ninth Circuit that you have to uphold a habeas corpus, except for in times of invasion and whatnot, but that would be determined by the executive branch before a declaration of war or something like that. Hence, it was notifying the legislature, habeas corpus must always apply, except for in these situations, passing it on to the executive branch. Right? So then Lincoln goes on to say this. He says, Lincoln didn't respond directly or immediately to the ex parte Merryman decision. Instead, he waited until July 4th address to confront Taney at a special session of Congress. Quote, soon after the first call for militia, it was considered a duty to authorize the commanding general in proper cases, according to his discretion, to suspend the privilege or writ of habeas corpus, or in other words, to arrest and detain without resort to the ordinary processes and forms of such individuals as might deem dangerous to the public safety. Lincoln said, this authority has purposely been exercised, but very sparingly. Lincoln then presented his famous response to Taney. Are all the laws but one to go unexecuted, and the government itself go to pieces, lest the one be violated? Even in such case, would not the official oath be broken if the government should be overthrown when it was believed that disregarding the single law would tend to preserve it? Now, the president also confronted Taney's opinion not only Congress could suspend the writ. Now it is insisted that Congress and not the executive is vested with this power. But the Constitution itself is silent as to which or who is to exercise the power. And as the provision was plainly made for a dangerous emergency, it cannot be believed the framers of the instrument intended that every case the danger should run its course until Congress could be called together. Because remember, at this time, they couldn't just fly back to Congress on a red-eye flight. Sometimes it took 3-4 weeks for someone to show back up from Georgia.
Right. Train and horseback.
Yeah. The very assembling of which might be prevented was intended in this case by the rebellion. As in, the rebellion might prevent Congress from assembling, which is why we would have to prevent the rebellion to allow them to assemble. Seems logical to me. After the Merryman incident, Lincoln suspended the writ in other situations and received approval from Congress on March 1863 to suspend the writ of habeas corpus. The public safety may require. Wow. The last time we had this type of buck up where you have a judge going, you can't do this, and the executive branch says, yes, I can, was all the way back then. Right. This is an absolute constitutional crisis. Proving
once again that we're on the verge of some kind of a civil, something or other.
Something, maybe something. We'll talk about that. So Janine Pirro gets asked, like, well, is this all politically driven? And her response is classic.
Oh, cut it out. Do you know how many convictions we've got? Cut it out. You're in one lane. We have cleaned up this city. Oh, yeah, historic? Really? I'll tell you what's historic. What's historic is that I prosecute everything other than 10% of the cases, where the United States attorney before me didn't prosecute 67% of the cases. That's what's historic. I'm willing to take a not guilty. I'm willing to take a no true bill, because I'll take all the crimes and put them in. Thank you.
And just like back in Lincoln's day, they weren't prosecuting other crimes like, I don't know, secession from the Union and open rebellion and all kinds of other stuff that was going on. But, when it comes to defending a rioter, defending a seditionist, now that law must be enforced. That's what's going on today. Crime pays, folks. Crime pays. Donald Trump was asked about oil prices, right? What's happening with oil prices? And Trump was pretty clear. He's like, listen, Prices are going to come down when this conflict in Iran is over.
Ask if you talked about capping, about selling oil futures as a way of capping prices, trying to keep prices down.
The prices are going to come tumbling down as soon as it's over, and it's going to be over pretty quickly.
Do you have any concerns about the political?
Ask if you talked.
So the next question is, do you have any concerns about the political fallout? This was Trump's response to this. This episode today is going to be quite a bit about Trump. Okay. Trump is doing some unbelievable things. He's correcting some generational errors that have been happening for a long time, mainly because our leaders have been politically concerned more than concerned about the lives of you and me, Ron, the peasants. They've allowed untold amounts of horrors to happen to us. The drug trade, fentanyl trafficking, the CIA running loose doing whatever the heck they're doing, right? And yet every president doesn't do anything about it because politics, right? Why don't you take on the CIA? I don't know. They might hurt me. They might support my opponent.
I'm too busy over here aggregating power.
I'm too busy over here aggregating power. Yeah, I can't be fixing any problem. What would I run on this next campaign? So Trump gets asked, are you considering the political fallout? This is the most presidential thing I have heard probably ever.
Down as soon as it's over, it's going to be over pretty quickly. Concerns about the political impacts of this. I have to do what's right. Political, sure, everybody has concern. I have to do what's right. I can't say that, gee, I don't want to have any impact on oil prices for 3 or 4 weeks or 2 months, and we're going to let Iran have a nuclear weapon and blow up the entire Middle East and beyond, right? Because, they were going to blow up the Middle East. If I didn't terminate the Obama horrible deal, the Iran nuclear deal, let's call it, if I didn't terminate that in my first term, they would have already had a nuclear weapon, and they would have used it immediately upon getting it. And if I didn't send in the B-2 bombers to bomb the hell out of it and obliterate, and that's what it was, we obliterated the site.
Basically, he's saying, he goes this, what about the political impacts? He says, I have to do what's right. Political impacts, sure. Everybody has concerns. I have to do what's right. I can't say, gee, I don't want impacts on oil prices for 3 to 4 weeks or 2 months and let Iran have a nuclear weapon and let them blow up the Middle East and beyond. It's perhaps the most presidential thing we've heard since Lincoln, where he had to preserve the Union and he had to break some eggs to get there. Okay. This is absolutely terrifying. Terrifying. Catherine Austin Fitts, who I admire a lot. I played this clip last night and my wife overheard it and she was like, what's happening here? Right? Is Catherine Austin Fitts alleging that Donald Trump is in on the whole deep state thing to try to put us in a control grid and decrease the population? Do you think that's the case? Do you think that's Donald Trump's agenda?
I don't think so personally, but I know that a lot of people put that right up there at the top.
They put it right up there at the top, right? So let's check the chats here. Carlite says, it's making me hungry for a double cheese with some Mickey D's.
That's because of this.
Oh, Chantini said, that's so exciting. Congrats on your new calves. Oh, because she also said, that was TIFF time. Chantini had said, woo, woo, we just had our first calves of the season, twin girls. Oh, that's very fun. And that's why Carlitos is hungry for
well, because I said baby cheeseburgers.
Baby cheeseburgers. That's great. TIFF time. Oh, thank you. Only 15 more cows to go. Chantini, how about filet mignons? Ooh, that does sound good.
A whole sack of cheeseburgers.
Carlitos says, suspend the writ of habeas and send in the military. Yeah, possibly. I mean, geez. So we've got this constitutional crisis brewing in our court system, and we've seen it all across the country. There was one of these retired judges was like, the lower courts have stood strong against Donald Trump to preserve our law form. It's like, yeah, you can preserve your authority is what it is, your little fiefdoms in your little courtrooms. That all of the only thing preventing it from being complete, he said, is the Supreme Court, and we're close. That's scary. Okay. Now, knowing Donald Trump, the guy's been shot at. Okay. Literally took a bullet to the head. Okay. Do you think he's going to let this slide? He's already emphasized the fact that he took an oath to preserve the Constitution. Everyone took an oath to follow it. And in his perspective, I can see how he's like, you're not following your oath.
Right.
And my job is to preserve the entirety of the government. This was Lincoln's justification.
Well, can you imagine, somebody on the playground and everybody is playing the same game, but nobody's playing by the rules. And he's like, yo, I want to play by the rules. Come on, man.
Yeah, I want to play by the rules. So I'm going to have to take out the rule breakers. Okay. So here's Catherine Austin Fitts. And this is one of those things where I'm like, maybe she's black-pilled. maybe there's nothing that can be done that's good. What are the solutions? Right. And that's the question I ask. And this goes back to last week, Friday's episode, one of our top showing episodes. Thank you, everybody who listened to that. Good morning. Pray the Rosary Daily. Spicy comments. Yes. This goes back to Friday where the Palantir CEO is like, listen, everybody thinks this is some conspiracy to get you. The control grid's here. China's already using it. It's either going to be ours or theirs. I have a seat at the table and I'm creating a control grid to keep theirs out. To preserve your right to free speech and complain and be a conspiracy theorist. Because if they have their way, it won't exist. And so that's where I wonder here with Castronoth and Fitz, is there a plan B other than, okay, let's just do it, but better? You know what I mean? Like when they formed the Constitution, they're like, we need a king and we need to give him kingly powers, but let's break up the power and create three full branches of government that are separate. You know what I mean? It's the same thing with the control grid. Well, can we have the control grid to hold government accountable, but use it also to preserve our liberties? Because now we know when they're spying on us. Do you see what I'm saying? Anyways, here's Castronoth and Fitz. Again, this is an omen for what's to come. She's not wrong in the challenge that we're up against. And it does make you wonder, are the bankers pushing Trump? Or is this got to happen anyways and it's inevitable?
But it's a percentage. The Straits of Hormuz are hugely important. So now we're listening to the U.S. say, oh, we're helpless up against Iran, who's been suffering under, extraordinary sanctions that if that was really true, they wouldn't have all these amazing hypersonic missiles, yada, yada, yada. Okay. And now what we're watching is the entire global economy being severely shut down. So let me give you an example. We're in March. What is March?
What do you mean? What is March?
It's the spring, right?
Right.
What happens in the spring?
Yeah, less demand for fuel perhaps in the West.
No. No. Come on, you're in the Netherlands. You're in the Netherlands, one of the greatest food exporters in the world.
Yeah, right. Growing season, yeah.
Farmers plant in the spring. Right now, we are shutting down the critical ingredients to most European factories who make fertilizer, right? Okay. And so by the time that gets through, whenever it gets through, it's going to be too late to make the fertilizer. You're going to miss the whole spring season. So I don't know. I just saw a headline, Goldman Sachs, leading member of the New York Fed, says that it's going to be shut down for 21 days, right?
Yeah.
Miss the planting season. Okay, so
let's talk about this for just a second.
Well, those old stories in the Bible where, there's 7 years of plenty, 7 years of famine. Well, what if it always like struck me as interesting, like how could they have years of famine like that? And how could we have years of famine that like this today? Well, you got to shoot yourself in the foot.
Yeah.
Well, here we are shooting ourselves in the feet. And or here we go.
Or we learn how not to use fertilizers made from petrochemicals.
Oh man, that would be awesome.
So I'll take what is meant for evil. We're going to destroy the fertilizer industry and make no food production. Guess what? You're going to lose it on the margins. Okay, so you have 10% less because you've got some insects, but now you have healthy food. You know what I mean? I don't know that this is a bad thing. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's a bad thing. COVID, Operation Warp Speed, the big conspiracy from the QAnons was get through hell, go fast.
So see how
you can't stop it.
See how quickly I fell into that trap though of this is going to affect our production. Well, yeah, it's going to affect our production because fertilizer has been propping up production for years.
But when you cut off the drug supply, what happens to the drug addict? He learns how to live without it.
Right.
That's what I see here.
Yes.
I'm like, it's like COVID, Operation Warp Speed. In 9 months, we got to a vaccine. And at that point, COVID was over and we got to see the tyranny. But if we'd have been waiting for a vaccine for 4 years, locked down, watching people on TV die and all the manufactured body bags, and then someone opens their body bags and starts smoking a cigarette. You know what I mean? Like we got to see it because we got through it. What if going through 21 days and all of a sudden the farmers can't get their fertilizers, but they still plant and we have a harvest and nobody starves? Maybe not. Or maybe we have mass famine.
So if you look at the material coming through that's critical to chip production, the material coming through the straits that's critical to fertilizer and food, and the material coming through that's critical to energy, you're talking about massive dislocation of the global economy. And if it goes on for long enough, I mean, we have Peru, Thailand, other people talking about doing COVID kind of shutdowns to save gas and fuel.
Yeah.
Right. But you're talking about intentionally shutting down the global economy. And it didn't start with Iran, and it didn't start with the United States. It started with the city of London. So Lloyd's of London shut down the straits with all their insurance company friends and reinsurance company friends, right? So the city shuts down the straits, and now the Iran is helping supposedly to keep it shut down.
Yeah.
Do you buy that story that the U.S. military is helping us?
No, but what I struggle with is it seems like a lot of countries and citizens across the world are going to suffer as a result of this war and as a result of the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. So there will be global disorder and chaos to a large extent. And even if you look at Japan, they're especially vulnerable. But in the Second World War, Japan did Pearl Harbor, at least that's the common story, because they were shut off from the oil market. So when countries are in desperate position, they're going to take desperate measures. So this could easily lead to a much larger world war, this conflict in the Middle East. So that's a huge gamble then that the global elite, for example, are taking, because they run a risk themselves too. If we have a nuclear escalation and a nuclear holocaust, what's in it for them?
So, well, what's in it for them is implementing the control grid and depopulation together.
Yeah.
That's what's in it for them. If this is, because we don't know yet. I think it's too early. I can't tell whether you're looking at massive incompetence on the basis of the U.S. or you're looking at an intentional desire to shut down. So this is COVID 2.0.
Yeah.
Because this is how you shut down. This is a new excuse to shut down to preserve energy and food. I think the big problem here is famine. So you have seen the new administration in the United States systematically cut the domestic funds that are available to support food for poor people in emergencies, as well as the USAID and State Department aid.
Is Catherine Austin Fitts now making the case to continue USAID? That Doge went in there and said there's literally not one grant that's worth it, and the few that are, send over to State Department and they'll kind of clean them up. Like, do you hear this? This is the woman who said, I lined up people in a room, explained how we could get rid of all human trafficking, drug trade, blah, 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 better food. Yep. But 9 out of 10 said, I want my 401ks and I want this. Is she advocating to keep the global economy the way it is, where we have a pinch point in the Strait of Hormuz and apparently Iran gets control energy, fertilizer, and silicone chips? Is that acceptable?
She certainly thinks it's important.
But yet last summer when she's talking to Tucker Carlson, she's like, we should just take the pain. Mm-hmm. And now she's like, oh no, famine, plague. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
To protect countries that have emergencies, like food. So you have, I don't know, 25 maybe $billion traditionally that the U.S. had available to stop famines. That money is all cut. And now you have something that's creating the conditions of famine.
So I guess we'll see. Scott Bessent was asked about everything that's going on over there and the financial collapse and stuff like that. And we're going to see a theme here. We're going to see a theme that Iran is really good at bluffing. Okay. Iran is really good at bluffing. So Scott Bessent gets asked about all this.
Well, we know exactly who we are fighting against. And if you want to use kind of historical analogy, think they're in Hitler's bunker, but Hitler's dead. And now they have dispersed out. And one of the things I'm going to do is bust this myth that is in the mainstream media that there is this coherent Iranian plan, that they are a smoothly functioning government. First of all, the previous Ayatollah did not want his son to become the Ayatollah. He left written instructions and they overrode him. We believe that the current Ayatollah is injured. We don't know to what extent, and maybe incapacitated. And they're just small bases. They're in the bunker. They are panicked, and like the circular firing that they are doing, on their Gulf neighbors was a big mistake.
But it's enough. But it's enough to distort probably the most important shipping point in the world.
Sure it is. But are they really in control, right? Because one of the things that keeps happening is there's like, oh, they've put landmines, and then the Navy goes out and sweeps for landmines. There's no evidence they ever placed a single landmine. Okay. So he's like, ships go. And then you see these videos of torpedo boats, speedboats hitting boats. There was a video of the Abraham Lincoln on fire because it got hit by one of these boats. Never happened. Never even got shot at, right? And so there's this huge psyop happening, and President Trump addressed this as well in a tweet. He put out one tweet, which I'm not going to read, where he called out the mainstream media, New York Times and others, as actually committing acts of treason by rooting against the United States and by basically pushing Iranian propaganda. And he goes on and says this: Iran has long been known as a master of media manipulations and public relations. They are militarily ineffective and weak, but they are good at feeding the very appreciative fake news media false information. Now, AI has become another disinformation weapon that Iran uses quite well, considering they are being annihilated by the day. They show phony kamikaze boats shooting at various ships at sea, which looks wonderful, powerful, and vicious. But these boats don't exist. It's all false information to show how tough their already defeated military is. The 5 U.S. refueling planes that were supposedly struck down and badly damaged, according to the Wall Street Journal's false reporting, and others, are all in service, with the exception of one, which will soon be flying in the skies. Buildings and ships that are shown to be on fire are not. It's fake news generated by AI. For instance, Iran, working in close coordination with the fake news media, shows our great USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier, one of the largest and most prestigious ships in the world, burning uncontrollably in the ocean. Not only was it not burning, it was not even shot at. Iran knows better than to do that. The story was knowingly fake, and in a certain way, you can say that those media outlets that generated it should be brought up on charges for treason.
Whoa.
This is the president of the United States, a guy who can levy that charge. If he could get a prosecutor or a judge to do anything about it, for the dissemination of false information. Now, remember, Abraham Lincoln, he went out and he confiscated printing presses. He arrested editorialists and people like that for this very exact reason, giving aid and comfort to the enemy. Guys, I don't know where it goes, but we're on the brink, okay? Because the institutions that are supposed to protect us are working against us in the view of our president, who has a very powerful military and discombobulator machines strapped onto Black Hawk helicopters. Okay? The fact is, Iran is being decimated, and the only battles they win are those they create through AI and are just distributed by corrupt media outlets. The radical left-wing press knows this full well, but continues to go forward with false stories and lies. That's why their approval rating is so low, and I can win a presidential election in a landslide, getting only 5% positive press. They have no credibility. I am so thrilled to see Brendan Carr, the chairman of the Federal Communications Commission, FCC, looking at the licenses of some of these corrupt and highly unpatriotic news organizations. They get billions of dollars for free American airwaves, and use it to perpetrate lies, both in news and almost all of their shows, including the late night morons who get gigantic salaries for horrible ratings and never get, as I used to say on The Apprentice, fired. Thank you for your attention to this matter, Donald J. Trump. Big stuff. Big stuff. The mainstream news is supporting a regime that used to behave like this. I'm going to show in the background, and we don't have to play the audio. But these are images. These are all verified images. None of these are AI. These are of protesters over the last 24 months that were shot in the face for women, in the groin for men. They were shot essentially in cold blood in the streets. This is the regime that the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, MS Now, CNN are all trying to prop up. A regime that will do this to their very own people, right? A regime that if you're caught in, if you're a woman and you're caught in the streets with your hair exposed, it was acceptable for the police to shoot you, not just detain you, not just give you a little beating. They were authorized to shoot you on sight. This is the regime, okay? The most oppressive regime probably on the planet, next to maybe, I don't know, it's right up there with North Korea. Absolutely a horrendous, despicable, disgusting, horrible regime. 92 million people held hostage by these people, okay? They're not Persian, they're Arabic. They've usurped power in this country with the support of who? The Lloyd's Bankers of London and their banking cartel. But yet people are worried about fertilizer. I get it. We don't want mass famine. But do you think they care? Do you think they'd rather go hungry than get beaten like this on the daily and be repressed like this? That's the thing. We don't go around the world looking for monsters to slay. I remember when we invaded Iraq.
Well, it looks like there's plenty of them here.
Yeah. I remember when we invaded Iraq. Notice that police car, the white with green. Just pay attention to that for a second. But when we invaded Iraq, I remember, the justification. Well, Saddam Hussein cuts the head off babies. Yeah, that's why it's okay to kill them, right? But it's really sad for the whole nation of Iraq. But I remember thinking, why don't we go after Zimbabwe and Robert Mugabe? He's just as brutal of a dictator. It's because there's other things too. Iraq held oil interests, allegedly had yellow cake and weapons of mass destruction. I'm not supporting the war in Iraq, but it's easy to see the moral justification because you can't let these leaders rule. You can't let someone who does this to their own people work the Strait of Hormuz. I know it's hard to watch. This. But this is why I say it doesn't matter if the boot comes from the left or the right. It's still a boot on my neck. I take the side of the people in every instance. The people can farm. The people can figure it out if you give them freedom, because every father will make sure his family gets fed if you allow him the freedom to do so. Okay? It is absolutely stunning. Now, there's been a huge turn of events. Huge turn of events. So, for example, instead of that happening in Iran this week, remember that green car? This is how it's flipped. Look at these guys. See that green and white cop car? Oh, how things have changed. Now the protesters are taking their streets back.
Nice.
Yeah. Very different, isn't it?
Yeah.
Very different from a year ago or in January of this year when they slaughtered upwards of 32,000 to 40,000 people, which, by the way, those numbers are becoming more and more confirmed as more and more videos leak out showing those protests. Isn't this a turn of events?
That's what needs to happen.
Yeah. These are unarmed people, by the way. And the new Iranian flag was raised. They were toppling statues. We'll show those here in just a minute. And you know where else this was happening? This weekend? Cuba. Libra Cuba. Look at these police officers in Cuba standing there, just letting them roll their police car. This is Cuba. This is Cuba. Every bit as totalitarian as Iran. Iran was right-wing fascist. Cuba was left-wing communists. Peasants are taking their countries back. Why? Because Donald Trump is giving them air cover. That's why. He cut the head of the snake off in Iran. He went in Venezuela. And now they raised the American flag over the embassy for the first time in 7 years.
Whoa.
And they've apparently full cooperation. Venezuela saw that discombobulator and they were like, self-preservation kicked in. We want none of that. They don't really drink the Kool-Aid, right? This is like the pigs and the farmers at the end of Animal Farm sitting around the table. That was the Venezuelan communists and the Cuban communists. Cuba announced this weekend as well, they're open to private property and foreign investment. They've done a 180.
Wow.
A 180. Out of fuel, out of medicine, out of public services. All of a sudden they're like, yeah, roll our cop cars. We don't know what we're doing. Yes, Marco Rubio, come down and be our king. There is a huge amount of disdain in the Republican, in even the Democrat Party, true Democrat politicos, right? There's a true disdain for what's been happening in the current Republican Party. This gentleman we're going to hear from, Mr. Epstein, not Jeffrey Epstein, he was Bill Clinton's impeachment manager. So he argued on behalf of Bill Clinton. This is a devout Republican, and he was on with Mark Levine. Donald Trump, by the way, put out a very, very, very long truth post defending Mark Levine as the great one. And everybody who's going against Mark Levine, Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, Candace Owens, that they're wrong. They're wrong on Mark Levine, that he's not a news guy. He's a law guy. And that's why he's there, is because he's got correct legal analysis. So he has on this old Democrat impeachment manager, and he's disgusted with the current Democratic Party.
I am really repulsed at what I consider quite unconscionable conduct by the official Democrat Party in trying to sabotage this war effort and basically defunding key elements of our domestic security against terrorism at the height of a war against the number one terrorist organization and country in America. What is this? I mean, am I missing something?
No, I'm quite disappointed to the point of being disgusted as well, Mark. I think.
Notice whose picture is behind his shoulder there.
Abraham Lincoln.
It is the Democratic Party that almost seems like it's rooting for failure and what is an existential threat to the United States. And if you don't see it, you're blind. I think it's also the legacy news media that seems to be emphasizing everything that might be going wrong with this war. And there are things that aren't, it never goes perfectly, but not emphasizing all the things that are going right. I mean, Trump has largely, and this campaign has largely disarmed the nuclear, although there's still work to be done, largely disarmed ballistics, largely disarmed the Iranian Navy, largely disarmed the regime, although there's still a little bit more work to be done. And sort of the one thing that's left is figuring out how to deal with the Hormuz veto that Iran has. And I'm confident that there will be a solution to that. But this is a existential fight for our future that the Democratic Party, for all its opposition, has never had a plan as to how to deal with. You ask Democrats, what is your plan to deal with this problem? And they don't have an answer. Their answer has been a policy that has failed. It's been diplomacy, giving Iran money, treating them nicely, using international organizations, all of this stuff that Iran has looked at and played the West as chumps.
Yes, Carlitos, Levine is Israel first. Absolutely. I do believe that. But but stick with me here for this show, because when we get to the end, I'm going to show how you are too. You are too. I don't like Netanyahu. I don't like the Greater Israel Plan, but that doesn't mean that I want October 7th every day. Okay. You are Israel first too. Maybe not like Mark Levine. Okay. Maybe not like Laura Loomer.
Definitely not like Netanyahu.
But if Israel falls, the entire West falls, unfortunately. So it's a line in the sand. Okay. Their right to exist is a line in the sand. And even I get on board with that. And again, I'm no, Israel first guy. Okay. I could care less. As far as I'm concerned, I'd rather they just have a diaspora around the world and not have a nation. Okay. But they've got one, and there's no going back now. Lots of Trump's base is starting to be divided against each other. Why? Because the Nick Fuenteses of the world, who's supported everybody but Trump ever, but then after Trump wins, he goes in, gathers up a bunch of Trump's followers, gets them on board with his racist bullshit, and then he's like, hey, Trump's against America, right? Or you get others, like you get the Tucker Carlsons, who's apparently, and I'm going to show you something that's pretty freaky, okay? I'm going to show you something towards the end of the show here that's pretty freaky about Tucker Carlson and how the Muslims are supporting him. That's kind of weird.
What?
But a big thing is this. They're saying that Trump's betraying his base by going into Iran. We don't want another war with Iran. And here's the concept from Hotep Jesus. Trump didn't betray his base. His base betrayed him. He told you his intentions before he got into the House. September 25th, 2024, rally in Mint Hill, North Carolina. Trump.
But if I were the president, I would inform the threatening country, in this case, Iran, that if you do anything to harm this person, we are going to blow your largest cities and the country itself to smithereens. We're going to blow it to smithereens. You can't do that.
And the crowd cheers. And the crowd cheers.
Oh, boy.
But you only hear what you want to hear. So the Tucker Carlsons aligned with him on this issue and that issue and that issue. They're just part of the coalition. They're not part of the base. That's all you can look at here. You were part of the coalition. You're not part of the base.
And there would be no more threats. There would be no more threats. But right now, we don't have that leadership or the necessary people, the necessary leaders. We have two people, not one. We don't even know who our president is right now. Who is our president right now? We really don't know, but we have two people, not one, that only keep looking. And when you do that, when you just look, trouble always ensues. So it's big trouble for our country. Meanwhile, we have the president of Iran in our country this week. We have large security forces guarding him, and yet they're threatening our former president and the leading candidate to become the next president of the United States. Certainly a strange set of circumstances.
So you had Biden's DOJ and Biden's entire weaponized government going after Donald Trump. Meanwhile, we're spending $1 billion defending the guy that we just killed to come to the U.S. soil and preach his nonsense at the UN. Oh, we're victims and oh, we're so good. Nothing could have been further from the truth. And you've got all these squish Republicans, Tucker Carlson, and the list goes on and on. We're going to lose the midterms. We're going to lose the midterms. This is so unpopular. Ooh, guess what happened? Poll came out this weekend. Trump's more popular than any president in our lifetime at this point in his term. What? Guess what? The vast majority of Americans support the attack on Iran, even the Democrats. Why? Because they've been saying Iran was bad for a long time, too. And anybody who says that the Democrats are going to win the midterms by default because, oh, they just do. And in odd year elections, you know, the base doesn't turn out and the Democrats are going to win and then they're going to impeach Trump. If they say any of that nonsense without qualifying it, if we don't pass the Save America Act, then that will happen because you have to assume they're going to cheat, right? If you don't qualify it with that, you're just another propagandist. CNN had to drop a very, very disappointing poll for them from Quinnipiac, a far left pollster. Okay. Quinnipiac, who thought Kamala Harris was going to win the election. Okay. Quinnipiac put out this.
How are voters feeling about Democrats right now?
Yeah, I mean, Democrats in the minds of the American public are lower than the Dead Sea. What are we talking about here? Well, let's take a look. The net approval rating for Democrats in Congress. You said it, Kate Baldwin. The lowest ever. Look at this. Overall, they are 55 points underwater. Their approval rating is south of 20%. It's even worse when you look at independents. Look at this. Negative 61 points. That means that their approval rating is 61 points lower than their disapproval rating. Quinnipiac has been polling this question for the better part of the 21st century. They have never found Democrats, at least those in Congress, in worse shape than they are right now.
Oh, but the Republicans are going to lose the election. Only if you don't take away their 20 million non-citizen voters. Only, you know what I mean? Only if you don't pass the Save America Act. There's no policy they're laying on. Their only policy is Orange Man bad. Well, I tell you, I like orange juice. So Orange Man good. You know what I'm saying? That's the reality we're living in. We're living in a world where the media, these tiny legacy media groups, are committing literal acts of treason. And then you've got a lot of Republican podcasters and stuff that apparently were never MAGA. I mean, some of these people, Megyn Kelly, she was against Trump. Remember, she's the one that tried to take him out with the, you've said mean things about women. Only Rosie O'Donnell, right? Now, she came around to support Trump, but apparently it's fair weather support. Candace Owens, same thing. Tucker Carlson, same thing. I like these people. I really like Tucker Carlson.
I'd really love to get all their disenfranchised subscribers.
Yeah. Please share the show. Don't forget to share the show. We need your help. We were rolling over 30 for a second on Rumble. I mean, we're killing it here. I had someone ask me this weekend, how do you find the time to do it? I said, that's why we do it at 6:30 a.m. Because this is a hobby for us at this point. Now, let me take a little break here. Just got to hit refresh like over and over and over till they show up. We had a great Liberty Lounge last night, by the way. If you didn't get a chance to listen to it, you can go back on Rumble. It's up there in the links. It's also on audio. And we had a good one. We talked yesterday about laws and enforcement of laws. It was a evergreen topic. It was really good.
Okay, looks like we're going to be doing this one.
Rumble Wallet.
Yes. Come on, baby. All right. They can freeze your accounts.
True.
They can shut off your cards.
Fact check true.
Lock you out of your own money overnight. Fact check true.
Yeah, fact check
Banks
true.
don't protect you. They control you.
True.
Yeah. That's why real financial freedom starts with ownership. Introducing Rumble Wallet, a non-custodial wallet built for people who refuse to give up control. With Rumble Wallet, you don't just buy digital currency like Bitcoin and Tether. You can own Tether Gold, real gold on the blockchain. Through Tether Gold, you can direct ownership of physical gold bars, each one fully allocated, verifiable by serial number, purity, and weight. This isn't paper gold. This isn't an IOU. This isn't real. This is real gold with bank vault storage without bank vaults, storage fees, or gatekeepers. You can buy, sell, or move it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even when traditional gold markets are closed. If you want, Tether Gold can be redeemed for physical gold, and that's power. And when you support creators on Rumble, you can tip them directly using Rumble Wallet peer-to-peer. I think we saw that on Friday.
Yeah.
And outside the banking system, no permissions, no middlemen, and no cancel button. Boom.
Yeah, that's awesome. And under every video, there's a little link for the Rumble Wallet. So if you ever wanted to click that and put a tip, that'd be great. I actually really think the Rumble Wallet is great. It's custody on your phone. You get your 12 passwords for your Bitcoin and whatnot. And it's free of fees. I mean, it's pretty good. So I highly support that. And again, I was debanked. I was put on all the blacklists, and it was actually very liberating. It's been very liberating because I'm untethered from it. I don't care anymore. In fact, it's kind of funny. Goldman Sachs, I had an Apple card. And of course, when I went to prison, it's one of the bills that didn't get paid. But Goldman Sachs is the one who had my bond, right? So all the money that paid for my imprisonment, it was by Goldman Sachs Municipal Bond Fund. So and I don't know if they're going to take me to court. If they do, I'm going to bring that up. You expect me to pay this while you were profiting off my unjust incarceration? I'm like, sorry, buddy. You can charge off that QSIP number right there.
I want a refund.
Okay. So good things are happening. We saw the video in Cuba. Over this last week, there was multiple demonstrations, and they actually burnt down the communist headquarters in Havana.
Whoa, we should have played that clip.
Yep. And then I'm going to play a little montage clip here. In Iran, they were toppling statues of Khomeini.
Oh.
Okay. And in Brazil, another nation that's been taken by leftist craze with Lula back in power, the guy that was in prison for actual embezzlement and fraud that was let out by the Supreme Court justice who basically runs the country, Darth Vader himself. So Darren Beatty, who's in Trump's State Department, was supposed to go down and meet with Trump from the tropics, hire Bolsonaro in prison. And their Supreme Court judge canceled his visa and refused to let him go. And then suddenly Jair Bolsonaro gets extremely sick, and now he's in the hospital and he's on his deathbed, which is what Bannon says. This is what they always plan to do, is kill him in prison. So anyways, this video, there was a huge protest in Brazil, protest in Iran, protest. This is what the world is celebrating, while our mainstream media is back there going, well, what about the fertilizer? What about the oil prices? Listen, oil prices aren't any higher than they were under Barack Obama. And there was no global conflict like this. They were gouging you, clearly.
We've been between $50 and $100.
And the only price increase is equivalent to what Obama had us suffering under for 6 years.
We have been between $50 and $100 a barrel forever. It's just been up and down.
We still are.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. It's been that way forever. So what are you guys talking about?
Yeah. Now, the president of Iran was on with Margaret Brennan. She appeared via Zoom. He gave about a 20-minute interview, and she asked the really obvious question. Because remember, these guys are spinsters. They don't want real news out there. They just want propaganda. And she goes, you're not allowing internet access to anybody in your country, but yet you have internet access.
I just do want to point out, you're speaking to us via Zoom. The Iranian people don't have open internet access, but you do. Why?
Well, because I'm the voice of Iranians, and I have to defend their right. So this is why I have access to internet to just have our voice being heard by the international community. But internet is closed because of the security reasons, because we are under attack, we are under aggression, and we have to do everything to protect our people. In any country, there are urgent measures taken for the sake of war.
What if Trump did that? What if we just shut down the internet? Hey, we're at war. I'm shutting down the whole internet. Tucker, you can't have internet access.
I think that the teenagers alone who rioted would take over the country because they want their video games back.
When I was in prison, when I first got in there, like I could sit silently in my cell. I've done meditation, mindfulness. Like it was hard, but I could find myself within, right? And I could just sit peacefully. The other guys couldn't. It was like a TikTok brain. These guys couldn't sit for 20 seconds with themselves. They had to scream, yell, talk through the walls. It was crazy. Jeez. And we would probably have TikTok riots. So first of all, Kevin Hassett was on with Margaret Brennan. I can't remember if it was just before or just after the Iranian president. And
you know what? I had a thought about the Iranian president, the supreme leader, right?
That's not the supreme leader. He's the president.
Oh, okay. Well, I had a thought about the supreme leader. So the supreme leader left his list of instructions, right?
Yeah.
Like, don't put my son in, et cetera, et cetera. How important is the supreme leader's word if they just throw it away as soon as he dies? I mean, how supreme was he?
Yeah, and that's what Scott Bessent was
Is this
saying.
not like telling? I mean, how supreme is the next supreme guy going to be? I mean, are we going to listen to him or are we just going to throw his words out?
That's what Scott Bessent was saying.
Oh, okay.
Right? He's like, this idea that they're coherent and putting up a resistance, they're totally fractured. They're hiding in bunkers, just pushing launch buttons the moment they can.
Right.
They're not coherent. He's like, again, it's the president that's like, oh, we're coherent. You're right. If the supreme leader said my son can't be it and you put him in anyways, how supreme is he?
Right.
Exactly. And he might not be conscious.
Right.
Hey, let's swear an oath to this picture, everybody. Why? Because nobody wants to be the target.
He's in a coma, but for now.
Yeah. So Hassett is, the fear mongering from the media is that this is going to affect us. Tim Burkhart gave us the truth. Look, we get nothing out of the Strait of Hormuz. So the fact that the oil companies are charging more, they're gouging. Now, I get it. It's a worldwide market, whatever the worldwide price is. But, we're not selling oil to all those same countries. We could, but we're not yet. So why are
$5 a gallon?
Yeah, why is our prices higher? So Kevin Bassett kind of addresses this, and he's like, listen, you can't allow a regime that kills 40,000 of its people in 1 month to then control the worldwide economy.
Well, you have to understand that America is not going to have its economy harmed by what the Iranians are doing. The bottom line is that in the 70s, we didn't produce much oil, but now we do. And so America's in a very strong position. They think that they're going to harm the U.S. economy and get President Trump to back down. There couldn't be anything that was a stupider thing to say, because the bottom line is that our economy has got all this momentum in the world, and we've got lots and lots of oil. We have lots of trading partners that are more on the hook from imported oil from these guys. And as we can see, it's completely unacceptable that a government that would, murder 40,000 of their people just a few months ago would be blackmailing countries to let stuff through. President Trump thinks that is unacceptable. Yeah. And for the global economy, we need to fix it, and we're going to fix it fast.
And he's putting together a coalition of nations to escort tanker ships through the strait. And they're bombing the crap out of the shoreline to make sure there's no points where they can, launch rockets or small missiles or anything like that. Their Navy's decimated. I don't know if they have a boat left. I mean, you know what I mean? Like maybe a couple fishing boats or something like that, but there's nothing really left out there. There's no evidence of any mines ever having been placed. But I'll tell you what, there's a whole lot of AI videos showing how the Iranians pushed these mines off the back of these cheap boats. Didn't happen. Never happened, right? Never happened. Donald Trump was pointing out when he was on the airplane, because one of the things the fake news was doing was they were showing protests after the bombing started of 250,000+ Iranians gathering together, chanting in support of the Ayatollah, chanting. And he's like, that was AI. It never happened. Video is horrible. But he says, Jeff, did you know the rally of 250,000 people was fake? Mason I saw reporting on it. Trump said, you wrote about it and you knew it was fake and AI generated.
You're the source.
Didn't know. You knew.
You're the fake source, dummy.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know it was AI. It's not hard to see if it's AI generated. You can just literally click on the Grok button and it'll tell you if it was AI generated. You know what I mean?
If your eye can't tell you.
Yeah. So Donald Trump was also asked, why aren't Iranians rising up? Now, I just showed you videos that Iranians are rising up.
Right.
Now, it's obviously not like every person everywhere.
Right. But we're being gaslit.
We're being gaslit, right? And maybe they're not rising up in numbers that we would expect. But it's pretty clear. You've got 2 million people with guns that are loyal to the Ayatollah and the regime and have been the oppressors, right? There was one video of one guy who's like running. He's like, I left town. I'm running to a little village. I hope that the people don't retaliate against us. He was one of the police officers. Okay. So they're kind of in that camp right now, but they still have orders to shoot to kill. And he's asked, why aren't people rising up?
You're dealing with thugs. You're dealing with horrible people. You're dealing with people that are violent and vicious, and that's the leadership and the people right under them, their military or their police. And they've notified everybody, and they put out statements that if you protest, you're going to be shot and killed. The protesters have no guns. And I know you're a brave person, but I don't think you'd be protesting. And so I think it's very hard for them to protest. I fully understand it. They said, if you protest, you will be killed. A week ago and 2 weeks ago, they killed 32,000 protesters. At least we think the number's much higher than that. They shot and killed 32,000 protesters who were greatly enthusiastic and want to see a change because they've destroyed the country. The people that are running it destroyed the country. But think of it, they shot and killed much more than 32,000 people. Now they put out a notice 2 days ago that we're going to shoot and kill any protester. And they don't have guns, meaning the protesters have no guns. So I can fully understand why they're not doing it. Oh, one other thing that was...
When you hear this dialogue about the protesters don't have guns, aren't you glad to live in the United States of America?
Absolutely.
Where even if they actually tried to disarm us, they couldn't.
Right.
I mean, literally, like the state of Wisconsin has more snipers going out into the woods on opening day of deer season than any country has a standing army. You know what I mean? Like, they couldn't take them if they wanted to. Thank goodness for the Second Amendment. They can try, but there will always be law-abiding gun owners who leave their guns in their drawer, in their safes, until it's time.
And they're all zeroed in.
Yeah, all zeroed in. Yes, 350 yards, not a problem. It is actually really one of those things that keeps our government in check. You can't say that's not the case. Which is why they wage war against us in the courtrooms and not on the streets. Right. It's why that the courts become so corrupt, is because that's the only place that you can get the buy-in from the people with the guns to allow them to send someone to jail, is the illusion of due process. KT McFarland was on Florida's Voice, and she's talking about the 3D chess that's happening here. And she's an intelligence advisor. She was in Trump's first administration as one of the National Security Administration. So she knows a little bit about what she's talking about. Now, I followed her quite a bit when Trump lost power in 2020, and she was kind of in the background, always talking about the coup and stuff like that. So I consider her pretty versed in what's happening.
But then the second level is to remake the Middle East. So we have the Abraham Accords, we have the Gaza peace plan. Who would have thought, if you'd asked me 5 years ago, would the Gulf Arab countries, with the Saudis, UAE, would they be joining with the United States against Iran? Nobody would have thought that was possible. So we're now going to potentially have peace in the entire Middle East. The Arab, Israeli, potentially Iranian peace, the whole region at peace. The next level of three-dimensional chess, though, is really the oil, what you've just said very well. What's the fourth dimension of this? And it's China. China needs our energy. China has survived and done well, very well, but only because they've had cheap, discounted oil from Russia and Iran and Venezuela. They're not getting that anymore. Yeah. So China's going to have to compete. And as President Trump said, hey, look, we're happy to sell China oil. It's just going to be at market prices, and you can buy it from us.
Right. Exactly. So we're pulling up that thread to the real enemy and the ones who push communism and collectivism all over the world. There was an election down in Boca Raton, Florida. This is an area where Donald Trump won by 13 points. Okay. This was for mayor of Boca Raton. Not a very consequential election when it comes to we the peasants around the country at large, right? I mean, the mayor of Boca Raton, this is like from a Seinfeld episode.
It's not going to affect me.
This reminds me of when Seinfeld's dad ran for HOA president in Boca Raton. You know what I mean? So anyways, the election results in Boca Raton, in this area where Trump won by 13. There were three candidates that were on the ballot. There was a Democrat and two Republicans.
Okay.
One Republican got 7,567 votes, totaling 39.61% of the total votes. Okay. The second Republican got 3,967 votes, totaling 20.77% of the vote. Oh, so tell me, how many people voted Republican? Roughly 59%.
11,000-ish.
Almost 60%. It ends up being 60% when you add them together. Yep. That's a 60-40 election.
Right.
Okay. Landslide victory for Republicans. But two Republicans ran against each other, split the vote, and the Democrat ended up winning 7,568 votes. One vote, one singular mother freaking ballot. One Republican slept in that day. One vote, and the Democrats snuck in with 39.62% of the vote. One vote. A 60-40 election, Republican versus Democrats, and the Democrat got it with a one-vote majority over the second place Republican because of the split vote. This same thing just happened in Texas. Wesley Hunt, F you. You just created another crisis where we've got to, do we get Cornyn the Rhino or do we get Paxson the MAGA stalwart?
Right.
And now we're holding the Save America Act hostage. Thank you, Wesley Hunt. I love the video I played a month and a half ago of you being like, Trump's done. You can't support him. I'm a never Trumper. Oh, but you were begging on your knees for Trump's endorsement. And you split the vote. We have, this is why there's a couple
This
Democrats.
is guerrilla politics.
Huh?
Guerrilla politics.
Guerrilla politics. One of these candidates here either is so full of freaking hubris, that they thought that they could win, or this was intentional.
Yeah, it was
one vote.
It was
one vote. One vote. And you think that Democrat's going to be like, oh, well, I've got to play with because I'm the mayor for everyone. Nope. I'm the mayor for only 7,568 people. You've got 14, 15, 2/3 of the county, the city doesn't like you. This is where we're at. And here's the thing. The Muslims understand this. Muslims understand this. And they're very intentional about taking power and who they support and how they do it. Here's one of these imams talking about how he believes all the Western nations are ultimately going to fall to Islam. And that's their prerogative, is to take power.
If we have enough authority and we have enough power, we are obliged as Muslims to take the authority away from the people who have it and implement the Sharia. Now, I hope that can come in a very peaceful way. I hope that we can do that in a way, where there's no bloodshed. The Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that, if the Muslims have authority and they have the ability to remove oppression, they must remove the oppression. So we believe man-made law is oppression.
So you believe America, Great Britain, all of Europe will be Islamic states living under Sharia eventually?
Inevitably. This will happen. This is the promise of God.
You're confident it's going to happen?
I'm not confident. I'm convinced. I'm 100% certain that the Sharia will be implemented in America and in Britain one day.
Okay, so Carlitos, when you say, hey, Levine's Israel first, and that's a bad thing. Well, here's the thing. Just like in Boca Raton, how the Republicans became a house divided and we ended up handing it over by one single ballot to the Democrat. I wonder if any illegals voted. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of freaky. How many dead people were on that Democrat ticket? You know what I'm saying? Like, that were voting for him. I don't know. But here's a group of Muslims who are doing their own podcast, right? Because they got their own media ecosystem. Mm-hmm. And look who they're praising. And look who they're telling Muslims to put their support behind. Why? Because it splits the base that's opposed to them.
We've spoken about Tucker Carlson a lot in previous episodes. And
it's making some noise.
Yeah, you know what? I think he's an important person. We've got to follow him. Umar ibn Khattab. Now today, we know media is a powerful place, man. Right? If you win the media war, media.
Yeah.
But as in, if we took a victory from this, if there's anything for us to say we did this time with Allah's permission, Tawfiq, it's media.
Yeah.
I'm saying this guy is, in my opinion, the strongest guy in the media right now.
I mean, his millions of views. Anytime he posts anything, I always monitor. Like, it's just the views.
It's not just that. This guy has got very strong footing and following, and he's got voice
in the right wing
in the USA,
in
the UK, and the Middle East. We've spoken.
So they like Tucker Carlson. He has a strong voice, and they know that Tucker Carlson's powerful. And one of the accusations has been that Tucker Carlson has been taking money from Qatar. I don't know if that's true or not. Doesn't really matter to me that much. But Tucker Carlson has done this whole, we don't want Islamophobia. Of course, neither do I. We don't want this. And he's been, pretty bold in calling out Israel and stuff like that. I'm not against it. I think you should speak. I think you should call things out. But this is one of those moments where you're like, hey, there's kind of a line here. I have to decide where I'm going to really put my energy and where's the line in the sand. Tucker Carlson doesn't seem to have a line in the sand that says Israel has a right to exist. It's kind of like, well, because they want the Greater Israel Project and They're run by Zionists. Do they even have a right to exist? I mean, this is what he was calling out with Mike Huckabee. I don't disagree. If your claim to fame is that some guy 4,000 years ago gave this land to your descendants, and guess what? His descendants were Islam and Judaism, so you got to split the ground. You know what I'm saying? But either way, the Muslim movement traditionally has always supported the left. Why? We're going to hear about why. But now you're seeing the Muslims are also supporting divisive right-wingers. Divisive right-wingers. Why? The same reason. Because they're trying to take power. And if they're the minority, the only way to take power from the majority is to split the base.
When I was an extremist, Islamist, fundamentalist, I would only vote left.
Why is that?
I saw them as very stupid. I would fear the conservatives because they come with principle. That's not someone they can brainwash. But the left, I know they have no values and no principles to begin with. I dare you to find one Islamic extremist that votes for Donald Trump. Never do it. They'd give their vote to the leftist who wants.
Or if you're following Nick Fuentes in the American First Movement, whatever third party candidate that has no chance but will split the base, or a Tucker Carlson who's going to try to get everybody that's like, hey, Israel's not doing a great job, and have them vote against Trump. For who, though?
To run around in pride parades, and Islamic extremists are against gays and homosexuals and transgenders, but they want the left to go and get busy with that. They want them go speak about the climate, go speak about abortion, go kill yourselves, go do that. And she's fighting for abortion rights and all the other, my body, my choice. Yes, go do that, But would she have an abortion? Never. Would she kill a Muslim in her stomach? Never.
What is the fundamentalist and jihadi agenda for America?
The future of America has to be Muslim.
And that's it. That's that simple. They're going to do everything they can to split the base. And they're masters at manipulation because they feel justified by God to do that. Okay. And again, they support people who then sometimes have this big awakening. So in Michigan, there was a terror attack last weekend. I made a mistake last week. I combined 2 terror attacks into one. There was a terror attack in Virginia where the terrorist was killed by the ROTC student with his bare hands. And then there was one on a synagogue in Michigan. While the synagogue terror attack was happening, Melissa Slotkin was on the floor of the Senate voting against Department of Homeland Security funding. Then she comes off the floor, hears about the terror attack, and changes her tune entirely.
A ton of DHS folks, CBP, and so they are on the call and they are doing their jobs. Certainly, we need to fund the Department of Homeland Security. And we need, in my view, to cut away all the conversation on ICE, which is its own conversation, from all the core missions of the Department of Homeland Security. But they're essential. They're on the job. They're working today.
Guy, that seemed significant. Maybe a shift, stripping away the ICE conversation and funding the department?
Well, ICE is already funded for the next 3 years. So that conversation should have been stripped away already. For her to say that certainly we need to fund Homeland Security, I agree, but I'm not the one who voted to keep it closed yesterday, which is what she did. There was a vote on this yesterday, which finished, by the way, after the attack in Michigan, in her state. She reacted on social media to that terrorist attack in her state before the vote ended. That kept the Democrat filibuster alive, meaning that the DHS department remains closed. She made that choice to vote to maintain the shuttering, the temporary closing of our Homeland Security Agency. And then she comes on the cameras today and says, oh, well, certainly we need to fund it. She had the chance to do so yesterday, and she chose not to. This was after, by the way, there were 47 Democrats in the Senate. 46 of them voted to maintain their filibuster to keep DHS closed. This is after 4 apparent jihadist attacks on the homeland in the last 2 weeks. 4 homeland attacks in 2 weeks, and nearly every single Democrat in the Senate voted to keep Homeland Security closed. It's astonishing.
It's astonishing. It is astonishing. In Canada, last week we showed how a bunch of the leaders from Iran have fled to Canada. Right? We were showing them in the airport, literally wearing their stupid things, running away from Iran, running away from the fight. This is Parliament in Canada. When you watch this, look at the look on her face. These are people who have had soft immigration policies, have cozied up with Iran. Keir Starmer's over there. We're looking for a diplomatic solution to all of this, and we don't support what Trump and America's doing. Well, guess what? There's a big awakening happening right now because terror attacks, minor though they may be, one-offs, running into a synagogue here or there, if it happens to you, the whole world stops. It's devastating, okay? All of a sudden, they're having a realization, hey, those Iranians that we thought we were containing by paying off, now that they're not getting paid off, they're kind of a liability in our country.
There have always been conflicts abroad, and rarely have we seen them spill into our streets the way that we have since this liberal government has been in power. We now know from the Iranian community right across the country, from many others, that there are hundreds of IRGC agents presently on Canadian soil, using Canada as a safe haven to organize and to fundraise and to terrorize diaspora communities right here at home. We have seen now critics of the Iranian regime from out west, an investigation now being treated as a homicide, somebody who is critical of that regime. We see constantly, and particularly as an MP from a region who represents many in that community, on a weekly basis, those calls coming into our office, informing MPs and at all levels of government, including authorities, that they are terrified of living within their own communities. The hundreds of agents that are here today live in Canada with complete impunity, and we have a liberal government that has done absolutely nothing to stop it. We've seen violence against businesses, gunshots into Iranian activist businesses. We've seen terrorism in the Jewish community. We now are amongst nations that lead the world in attacks against Jewish institutions. Today, we are calling on the government to table a plan to get rid of these terrorists that are on Canadian soil.
It's quite the wake-up call. So what have the leftists been doing? That clip I played with Dinesh D'Souza and the former Islamic extremists is like 10 years old.
I know. We played that 5 years ago.
I know. It's not exactly. It's not even like a new. They've been doing this. It's called the Red Green Alliance. Like we've been talking about this, right? Hello, liberals, wake up. The guys that will throw your gay ass off the building are not really supporting you. They're trying to take power from you. They've weaponized your virtue, your goodness. Oh, we just want to be open doors for everybody. If we open the doors for everybody and pay for free cost of living and everything, you guys won't throw us off buildings, right? No, we will. No, we will. Just wait. When we get rid of those pesky conservatives, we'll definitely take over. A huge wake-up call. Now, Carlitos, Levine is Israel first. I agree. Totally agree. And I'm not Israel first. I'm America first. But I understand the role Israel plays in the bigger picture of things. If Israel falls, the whole West falls, because it ignites the entire Arab world, Sunni and Shia, that they're on the winning path. If we can't defend Israel, we can't defend anything. Okay. This is Tommy Robinson. And everybody, okay, this is Tommy Robinson. And he explains it pretty clearly. And this is why we have to have a line in the sand. Do I agree with Greater Israel Project? No, of course not. But when we're talking about the conflict between the West and the Islamic world, Israel is clearly in the camp of the West.
Don't you understand that if Israel falls, this is why I see Israel as such a key ally as well. If Israel falls, we all fall. What do you think they're going to do?
How would that happen?
How would it happen?
Yeah.
Well, say they won the war. Say the surrounding Islamic nations won the war, as in obliterated the Jews of Israel, which they'll take your wives as sexual slaves, as they told you in the 6-Day War, all these things. If they were successful in that, they stopped then, do they? They stopped. That's it. That's all they wanted, was it? Come on, man. They told us on October 8th. New York, London, we're coming.
But they'll try, regardless of the war in Israel, they'll try to do that. But why was this demonstration so important for Israelis? Because our counterpoint of view, which our prime minister has been trying to say all over, you've probably seen one of his speeches, the UN,
I think it's very strong.
Congress. And what he's been saying is...
But I'm sure there are people in New York or in London or in Melbourne and elsewhere who are probably thinking, what does all of this have to do with me? And the answer is everything. Because our enemies are your enemies.
Don't
And that's the thing. Whether we like it or not, whether we agree with them or not, right? It doesn't matter if you liked Polish people at the onset of World War II. It doesn't matter if you disagreed with Belgium at the onset of World War II, or you thought France was a bunch of sissies. When Hitler crossed those borders, you had to pick a side. You had to pick a side. We could have sat back and let the conflict in the Middle East just be a bunch of desert dwellers spilling blood over sand like they have for centuries. But October 7th was a turning point. It was a turning point. It showed their barbarism. This is not a diplomatic war. This is not where they're going to win elections and compel us and convince us that Sharia law is superior. They're going to, by any means necessary and possible, take power and destroy our way of life. I disagree with the British banking system. I'd love to go back to a tariff system, a sound money system, all of that. And it's very possible that we could do that internally. But Israel is the speed bump. Israel is the thing that prevents those fascist and governments that are Islamic oriented from taking power. And their base of operation was Iran, who funded everything. They funded Sunnis, they funded Shias, they funded Venezuelans, they funded narco-terrorists, they funneled money from China. I mean,
thanks, Obama.
Yeah, thanks, Obama. So I don't agree, but I can see that there's an issue there. Okay, this is from the Atlantic magazine. How the rosary became a symbol of extremism. The AR-15 is a sacred object among Christian nationalists. Now, radical traditional Catholics are bringing sacrament of their own to the movement. Is this not sound like... So the Catholics to praying the rosary are now a threat? Do you see how the media is dividing everything? How about this one? Let's bring this back into Washington State. This is our Chris Reichtel, our superintendent of public schools.
Yeah.
Again, think about the support that the Islam will give to the leftists to get power.
I'm sure they're supporting him.
Have just lost their mind. Listen to him talk about gender.
We have a civil rights framework in the state. It includes trans youth. This is a biological question. It is quite simply inaccurate to say biologically that there are only boys and there are only girls. There's a continuum. There is a science to this. There are children who are born intersex. There are children whose chromosomes and their hormones.
There's like 4 kids
consistent
in the state of Washington.
There's also every kid in our state that can't freaking read.
Yeah, every kid in our state can't freaking read, can't do math. But, you know, gender is a biological question. No, it's not. Even if you go gender identity, we'll let the cross-dressers go. But no boys and girls locker rooms. You know what I mean?
Just focus on math for a minute. Jeez.
The alliance here, again, it kind of all ties back in. This is what Netanyahu was saying. Disagree with him as a man or not. Our enemies are your enemies. The people that are promoting that, the Islamists, the leftists, they're all in on it. They're trying to take power from who? Conservative Catholics, conservative Mormons, conservative Southerners, you know, the good old boys in the South, the deer hunters in Wisconsin, the farmer in Minnesota, right? They're trying to take it from you by any means necessary. And they're trying to punish success and redistribute wealth. Here's our governor in Washington State talking about what a great blessing this tax on millionaires is. Because Ron, guess what? He's going to give the people the money back.
The key thing for me throughout this process was making sure the revenue that comes into the state of Washington, that a significant amount of it goes right back to the people.
Liar.
Individuals in tax rebates to small business owners, to exempt them from the B&O tax, for example.
Yes.
That was really important to me. And I'm thankful that through the negotiation process, we delivered on that. It's the largest tax break for small business owners in states.
This is the largest tax break, Ron. You think we're going to see a dime in tax breaks?
We're sending rebates to 460,000 additional working families. They'll literally get a check from the state between 300.
All minorities, all women-owned businesses, no regular, normal, blue-collar business owner is going to get those tax rebates.
I'm not getting it.
They quartered them off into special interest groups. They're paying off their benefactors.
And $1,300. Free lunches and free breakfasts for
they already have that.
All K through 12 students. That helps working families. So that's what I really wanted to see. It wasn't just about taxing a certain number of people in our state. It's about where those revenues go and getting back to the people to make life more affordable. That was absolutely key to me.
Maybe you could promise to fix our potholes with all the road money you collect, too, you know, while you're at it. Come on, just shut the hell up.
There's a guy named Pacific Northwest Conservative. He's a Native American guy, and he always posts kind of like parody, and he's like, thank goodness we've got plastic straws because that'll prevent this volcano from erupting. And he's got all these thank goodness they're going to tax whatever because they're going to fix our roads. Shows a picture of a road with nothing but potholes. No, that's the thing. All of those benefits, first of all, already exist. Right. Second of all, it creates a dependency because now they've got to allocate a portion of this tax revenue somewhere. So when the millionaires flee the state, you know what's going to happen? They're going to have to lower the threshold because otherwise the poor families won't get the money.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yeah, go figure. All right, guys, that pretty much concludes our public show for today. Again, just for emphasis, I'm not Israel first. I'm America first. But I recognize Israel's role in the bigger picture of all this. And we should too, right? We cannot allow ourselves to lose elections by one vote because of circling firing squads, because we as conservatives are arguing about Israel or no Israel. What's your alternative? What's your alternative? And that's the question you have to ask yourself. We're not at a point where you get to go, hey, every law of the land is being upheld except for the grand jury subpoenas. No, it's just the same situation that Lincoln was dealing with habeas corpus. You're letting every law go unenforced, but when it punishes the guy who's trying to preserve the Constitution, well, then it matters. Let's throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? I don't want to support Israel, so I'm not. And by default, you know what that means? And you know what the Islamic world understands? By default, that means you support them because they don't actually need your support. They just need your acquiescence. Mm-hmm. They just need you to stand aside while they blow the shit out of Israel, while they rape the Israeli kids. Because you know who they're coming for next? London, New York. And hey, the enemy's in the gates. Mm-hmm. You just had Ramadan in the house. There's a video I was going to play of Mondamio earlier this year as a protester pushing up against police officers, state troopers, not even his own, yelling at Tom Holman viciously and violently. The exact same behavior I was sent to prison for, the New York mayor is doing. I couldn't get it to play. I could not get the video to play. Okay. For whatever reason, it's just an endless circle of rebuffering. They're in the gates. So you have to pick a side. Israel for last, as Q says. Fix the big problem first, and then we'll go deal with Israel. But right now, in a way, we kind of need them. And they are a bulwark of the West. Like it or not. All right, we're going to jump over into private. We're going to talk a little bit about some COVID nonsense. We're going to talk a little bit about Susan Collins, throw some shade at her. And we're going to talk about the first slate of Antifa terrorists that were convicted. Oh, but they're not a real thing. Apparently they are, and a jury decided so. All right, we'll see you guys, most of you tomorrow, and hopefully